What's going on, guys? TG or Thunder God here. I got Say3 with me. Say what's up.
What's up?
And today we are doing another free-for-all video. You guys seem to enjoy the last one with the tuning exams. Go check that out. I did a free-for-all with the Akatsuki and the tuning exams. Both are really good. I'll probably make a playlist after this video comes out because we've somehow gotten to 3. I don't know if we're going to make it past 3, but anyway. Regardless, today we're going to be doing a 5 Kage Summit free-for-all. So essentially, we're going to be putting all of the 5 Kage in the giant room where Sasuke fought the Raikage. We're going to have all 5 Kage with their aides. We're going to have Mifune and the Samurai also in the room with Sasuke and the rest of the room. And we're just going to say go and see what happens. So rules for the video are just last man standing wins. And they're not allowed to leave the premises. The reason this matters is because some characters are big. I'm gonna mute that. I'm gonna area. So with that being said, like and subscribe if you're new here. Check out Say3, all that good stuff. And let's get into the video here, because this obviously, like any free-for-all video, can go a number of ways, not infinite, I would say. But we kind of foresaw a certain this situation of going. We kind of think this turns into not like a two groups, but there's like a big group and then like a small group per se. So we see so Sasuke and the Raikage off rip, they have problems. Like the Raikage is gonna see Sasuke and he's like, this guy, bro, this guy right here. I gotta.
It's like the Raikage's trigger word. Like he just hears Sasuke, goes off the bat.
And then but then you also have like Sasuke who sees Danzo and he's like, all right, this guy, man, this guy, like everybody kind of has this guy. Like everybody in their mind, they have this guy. Like there's a person for everybody. So Sasuke obviously hates Danzo. There's a weird element to this to where like he maybe wouldn't kill Danzo. Like let's just say like he wants to kill Danzo in this situation. So these 3 are already at each other's neck. And there's like kind of a triangle there. And then you also have Gaara, who's extremely interested in Sasuke and would also jump in because he's all 4 of these like shinobi are gonna have their aides and squads jumping in to help each other. So it's gonna kind of turn into like a 4-way free-for-all, and then like an 8 like person free-for-all with their aides, which is kind of really funny. So do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so basically, like, the way I see this going down is Sasuke's gonna see Danzo, he's gonna gun for him, the Raikage's gonna gun for Sasuke, like TG said, and then Gaara wants to talk to Sasuke, he wants to, like, confirm stuff with him, and, like, try to talk no jutsu him, like Naruto talked no jutsu to him back in the day. So he's probably gonna jump in to, like, protect Sasuke from the Raikage a little bit. And then I could even see Mei sort of jumping in to assist Gaara, too, because they both in the summit have this narrative of being like the younger members who have different views from the older generations. So it's possible that she would also just think like, oh, this guy is so pure, he's handsome too, why don't I help him out, And like you said, Sasuke also might want to sort of protect Danzo a little bit. Like he might just want to protect Danzo so he can kill him later. Yeah, that's kind of weird as well. He also wouldn't know about Izanagi, so he would think that anytime Danzo dies, that's it. So he would be cautious with Danzo, for sure. Danzo also doesn't have his arm out immediately. You have to take that into account.
Yeah, so Danzo's not going to start the fight with his Izanagi out. He has to have Fu and Torine kind of like... Basically, like in the original timeline, he has them stall Obito so he can like unleash the Izanagi and stuff like that. And it doesn't take the longest amount of time since that's a very short fight because Obito just kind of cleans house. But it still will take a decent amount of time. Now, I will say in this situation, there's a bit of a wild card because Sasuke versus the Raikage is very easy to talk about because we saw that fight already. And you could just make the argument it would progress in a similar situation. Like there'd be no reason for us to sit here and headcanon a different fight, like other than the one that happened, especially since like these characters are going to remain in character. The issue here is we also have Mifune and the Samurai who are kind of like, they're not kind of, they're this neutral party even throughout the Kage Summit. Like the whole point of like the Kage Summit being held there is due to like that land being a neutral point. Like there's no bias, no advantage toward anybody. So we were kind of discussing there could be a decent situation that like let's say Sasuke, Raikage launches at Sasuke. Danzo might actually, because in this situation he didn't use Kodo yet. You can make a case like he actually would use Kodo on the Mifune in an attempt to like buy himself time to unleash the Izanagi. I'm in a similar capacity where he did in the Kage room. And I'll be honest, I feel as if he could kind of subtly manipulate Mifune into making him like the military leader of 5 great nations, him making Mifune not attack him off rip, I think is less of a jump. You know what I mean? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he could kind of get Mifune to be like his personal bodyguard. Like Mifune's inner logic could be that Danzo is being the most logical of the Kage, so he's like the most worthy of protection or something like that. And then he could just get Mifune to be his bodyguard for a while, and the samurai would follow Mifune. He could also target any of the other Kage, but I don't think it would work. Like, with any of the others, their aides would immediately notice that, like, wait, you weren't this friendly to Danzo before? Like,
Yeah,
what's
behavioral
up?
shift. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I feel like Mifune is the best candidate here. So Mifune is pretty strong. He's like relative to somewhat nerfed Hanzo. And Hanzo, you know, he has crazy lore. He also was able to clash with Sasuke a little bit in the summit. So he could probably just buy Danzo enough time to unleash Izanagi for sure.
Yeah, it's weird. Like Mifune's strong. Like I would definitely say Kage level. He just has good showings. It's just like it's weird because he has like this little scuffle with Sasuke and he gives him some credit. Like his sword clashes against Sasuke, so you know he's definitely applied to be impressive. And I'll say this: you could also look at Mifune's performance versus Hanzo. The thing about Hanzo, it's really fascinating, is in a weaker state. In his youth, he actually does fight Prime Hanzo, the one who hasn't gone rusty, or I don't want to say rusty, but lost his conviction. You might say, well, oh, no, he just lost that fight straight up. But Hanzo actually does give him quite a bit of credit. He's like, you're a skilled opponent, and I couldn't really afford to pull any punches or give you any advantages, which is pretty huge, especially considering Hanzo's lore. So obviously, you know, Mifune being stronger than that version than the one that fought Hanzo and did give him a bit of a battle. I mean, you know, there's fatigue. There's like dirt on him. We don't know the battle, but just Hanzo's own admission is pretty much all you would really need. And I will say Hanzo, like, losing his ninja way is just not insignificant. Even Mifune notes the minute he clashes with Hanzo, he's like, yeah, now I see why you lost. Like, you who were so much stronger than everybody else, I completely understand why it happened. Just off clashing with Hanzo and like seeing how he fights. The reason I say Mifune more than likely got stronger is that he was probably using Hanzo as a measure to improve him, but it would also fit with how Mifune kind of views people as swords and how, you know, he tells Hanzo, he's like, listen, you are gonna have to constantly improve or you'll lose your sharpness, just like your conviction and stuff like that. So it's just this narrative that he's continued to improve as his conviction has gotten stronger in his age. So Mifune is not insignificant by any metric. So if we kind of like go off the idea that Sasuke and the Raikage kind of have at each other, and then Danzo's kind of chilling, and then Gaara maybe approaches in a similar situation, you kind of have to ask yourself, okay, what is Sasuke really gonna do in this situation? Because he obviously in the original timeline kind of was bailed out by Gaara and whatnot. But you also have like Sasuke's aides in this situation, which I think is gonna go very differently because it's weird to say, right? Because and the reason I'm kind of struggling to find the words is because you essentially have Fu and Torne versus C and Daori versus Suigetsu and Jugo versus Kankuro and Tamari, who are all going to be at each other's necks or in defending their respective Kage. So as you might imagine, it's a little bit difficult to word. So I think we'll start backwards and like kind of work off the top of the pyramid. I'll say this. We're kind of discussing this. We think CS2 Jugo is probably the strongest among them. Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, Jugo is pretty crazy. He's able to take hits from version 1 Raikage without dying. And when he unleashes that point-blank blast, he actually has the Raikage's aides a little bit worried. He's like, 0 range? What?
Yeah.
Like, it's actually kind of a little bit scary to them. So Jugo in general just has such a crazy like scale and attack sort of destructive capacity. And he also does have pretty good speed as well. He's able to intercept some of the Raikage's attacks on Sasuke initially. So Suigetsu is also no joke. He's able to do the same thing pretty much. And he's able to like block a hit from the Raikage in version 1. So they're both probably some of the strongest aides.
Yeah.
As long as Jugo and Suigetsu don't go up against Darui, like specifically Suigetsu against Darui, I think Suigetsu can put in a lot of work against all the other aides. Darui is strong, but I think like if he goes up against Jugo specifically, Jugo has some level of regeneration and he has like laser beams and stuff, so he would probably take Darui down.
Something interesting to note for Jugo, I'll say this as well. If he does get injured in the summit, because there's so many samurai around and there's so much like conflict going on, you could make a case that he just absorb any of the remaining samurai on the battlefield and he'd be kind of able to re-enter the fray. which I think it will also speak to that. So, you know, you could also argue like a prolonged battle in his favor. But yeah, destructive capacity is pretty crazy. It's just kind of like he just shot it at the guy who's comparable to Minato, at least conservatively. However, you know, your opinion on that doesn't matter. But, you know, him and Minato are mentioned in the same conversation consistently. So that's a problem. And the fact that Sasuke may, it kind of have to argue Sasuke what he does in this situation, because you could maybe say Sasuke also might use Jugo's large scale attacks in a similar capacity to the canon timeline and use it to Genjutsu an individual. But if the Raikage is going straight for Sasuke, he's not going to have that opportunity. I want to say Kankuro and Temari are really going to be putting in work, but I don't know. Like, they're just really weird at this point in the series. The main thing I would say for Kankuro and Temari that you could potentially offer them is maybe their attack speed being somewhat comparable to Daorui's laser circuits. So maybe they're just on par with him. Maybe you think like all the aids are like relative to one another. But I would still make the case that Jugo and Suigetsu just have blatantly better feats. But to say maybe that they're featless or they don't have anything to go off of maybe isn't exactly fair. You know, but like, what's your opinion?
Like, they don't really have any scaling going on. Like, unless you want to say Kankuro scales to, like, sorcery based off the Edo showings, then, you know, maybe he could pull something off. And,
Yeah,
you know, Temari did knock Madara back a little bit, but that's, like, off-guard Madara in base, and he takes no damage. I don't think they would do that much. I think from the aids here, they're kind of the weakest ones.
Yeah. I was going to say, too, yeah, I don't think Kankuro even scales to sorcery based off the war arc, because it's like, even Sasori in the war arc, he's not even using his puppet with all like the jutsu that he's like, or his like coded kunai. He's not using any of that. Whereas like Kankuro has access to all this. So it's like, you know, I wouldn't agree with that either. And then we have like Fu and Torine. Now, these two are kind of crazy. You don't really get to get the vibe of that because Obito kind of makes them look like clowns. But they also do kind of well versus Obito. It's a little weird of a situation. So we'll both take turns talking about this. But Fu is, you know, Yamanaka clan, mind transfer, sensory capabilities, all you know, that's standard stuff. We'll say mind transfer is a little debatable. Like, he's not gonna mind transfer the Raikage because the mind transfer does move linearly, and he does kind of have to perceive the Raikage and, like, you know, move his hands. That's also why he doesn't just mind transfer Obito, because Obito's constantly moving and shifting. Not too many people bring that up, but so that's an issue, but that can be useful if someone is not paying attention and they're standing still in this battle royale. Torine, whew, this man is strong, bro. He's got a brawling, bro. So Torine is interesting because he's pretty much got these like bugs all over his body. If he takes his shirt off, you know, if he like, because he pretty much has like gloves and stuff all over him, but they pretty much like enter the cells of whoever they're like, whoever's touching them, they enter the cells and just completely like start tearing apart the arm. We see this with Obito. He touches him. He's pretty much forced to touch Torine to take him out, and he's pretty much has to like rip an arm off. So that's not inconsequential, because like that pretty much means that like Taijutsu's out of the question for everybody. What's your opinion on Fu and Torine?
Fu, unironically, might be the dark horse here, because Gaara is just standing still all the time when he fights.
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about him much, but Inoki is also just kind of indifferent. Like, he's just going to be sitting on the sidelines at first, because he just doesn't care. Like, even in the summit, he was like, oh, Sasuke's here? Whatever, you can do what you want with him.
My back can't handle this, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So, like, you have two of these Kage just sort of standing still. And I don't know, Fu might just be able to like mind transfer into them while they're off guard and just make them kill themselves. It's a possibility. Like, it's actually surprising how much he could do.
Yeah.
And Torine, like in the anime, he talked about this before the recording. He like faces off against KCM Naruto or a clone of him, and like does well.
Dude, he's like they're having a back and forth, and you're like, look, I guess, look, you listen, I'm not gonna say Torine's that strong, but I mean, his only, like, I guess you could say anti-feat is losing to Obito, you know what I mean? But look, I'm not gonna lie, like, obviously, you know, anime's taking some liberties here. There's also, you know, that's a Naruto clone, which can obviously be argued around. It's not my fault that the war arc made everybody comparable to QB Naruto. I don't know what to tell you on that. It just is what it is. So.
Yeah. So Torine in general is like, he's going to be decent at like close range combat. Like, if anybody touches him, they're dead, or like at least they're gonna have to like chop off their arm or something. But the thing is, most of these fighters are long range, like Gaara, Noki, Mei. The only one who might get like hurt by Tourney is the Raikage, if the bugs can go through the chakra armor.
Yeah.
But even then, like, even if the Raikage, like, for some reason just barehanded, like, snaps Tourney's neck or something like he did to Zetsu, it still shouldn't be too much of an issue. He can just chop his arm off and then get it healed by C and then
Or
go
like,
back
you know,
into
hit him
battle.
with like the gauntlet part too, like the metal part.
Yeah, hit him
not
with the
even touch it.
gauntlet.
Yeah.
So I think Torine is like, he's strong in certain situations, but here he's just not gonna have any opportunity to really get anything done.
Yeah, I agree. You got a bunch of long range fighters. Suigetsu arguably hard counters him too, because he's like water. So I don't even necessarily think like the bugs would work in a similar capacity. You know, Jugo long range jutsu. So Fu's definitely the most interesting one. And I could definitely see a situation to where like maybe Danzo's fighting against like the Raikage and he's like, yo, Fu, kick Gaara out, bro. Like mind transfer him. It kind of depends on like what Danzo orders him to do. But I could see a situation and that's really interesting. So Fu definitely has a lot of potential here. So going back to the main Kage, you kind of have like Sasuke, Raikage, and Gaara just kind of fighting each other. And Danzo really gets a bit of luxury here because it's not like Sasuke is just going to be able to run. He's not going to be able to pass through Raikage and Gaara easily, just like he didn't just blow through them in the original timeline. Like, even if you argued, right, the best case for Sasuke is you have to argue to take on the full, like, not even the full, but like the incomplete, like half body Susanoo and like break the pillars, which would be problematic for the group. But again, it didn't necessarily take them down in the original timeline. So I can't necessarily see it maybe making an issue here. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that would necessarily make a difference. It also does, you know, it's weird to say, but I think Danzo comes out very confidently in this, like this little group. What's your opinion on it?
I would say probably I agree, because Danzo, in character, he's just gonna be mostly lurking in the shadows, sitting back, like maybe taking pot shots at some people. But in general, the fight's probably gonna go like this. Like, the Raikage is gonna rush at Sasuke, Gaara's gonna protect Sasuke for a little bit, and then he's gonna realize Sasuke is like beyond saving and stuff, like he's gonna resolve himself to kill Sasuke. And then Sasuke's gonna have to bring out the humanoid Susanoo, like you said, to be able to like survive this. And then I would imagine Gaara could either make some sand beneath his feet and then just yoink him out of it, or Sasuke manages to kill the Raikage and Gaara before that can happen. And after that, Sasuke's gonna be fatigued. He might get Karin to heal him, but I think Karin might die in the chaos at some point.
Yeah.
Because I think somebody would go after her. Like, C, probably being a sensor ninja himself, would notice Karin sensing as well and then probably go. Yeah. So in the worst case scenario, I feel like Anoki would put his foot down and step in and like particle style the Susanoo, because I feel like he could do that from like a relatively long range. So I feel like Gaara and the Raikage just sort of fall out of this. And then Sasuke is the last one standing, but he's fatigued. And then
There's more than enough time, especially if Mifune's here, for Danzo to unleash Izanagi. Kage's not present. The off-guard Izanagi attacks are just like, you know, like Sasuke with his Mangekyo Sharingan and Karina Sensory Ninja just were like, this dude's popping out of nowhere. So it's like, even with like C and like maybe Aoi or Ao with like the Byakugan, they're not going to be able to stop him or read when he's reappearing. And he's going to be able to do this for 10 minutes. So it's like, this is going to present a pretty big issue. And just like you said, like, even if Onoki comes over to this side of the battlefield, it doesn't help him because obviously, like, what's he going to do against an Izanagi surprise attack? It's not really going to, even if he did kill Danzo, the particle styles would eventually fatigue him, or Danzo would just take him out immediately. You know what I mean? So Izanagi is such an issue for the Kage, especially if Sasuke's fatigued, because Danzo is really impressive because he's able to tangle with Sasuke outside his Susanoo, a more developed Sasuke. So obviously a fatigued Sasuke in this case, even with the Susanoo, he would just get outlasted at this point. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I believe that if Sasuke is the one who comes out on top in this encounter, or anybody other than the Raikage pretty much, then I believe Danzo probably just outlasts everybody, like tear apart a Susanoo. So that's also something. And like the main win cons I see against Danzo would be the Raikage if he survives the initial encounter, because he's just gonna be standing in his lightning armor. Like, I don't think Danzo can really do much to him aside from the wind style combo.
Yeah.
Him making it past the initial encounter.
Honestly speaking, and I'm gonna be real, I think, and then like when if the Raikage gets hit by a Matarasu, be like, bro, let me heal you real quick, and then pull some type of stunt, kind of like he did with Ao in the Mizukage. Like it actually kind of happened, like it was a similar situation. So I think Fu could low-key be a win.
Kill Anoki or Gaara, and he could pretend to be C and like take over or whatever.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. So and I will say, like, this goes, this does go off the idea that Fu's not fighting or loses to CS2 Jugo or Suikuro and Tamari because they're long range. They definitely don't win. Like their long range attacks are obviously not on the level of like, you know, obviously CS2 Jugo's attacks. I think they probably stick closer to Gaara because C's like cool. He flash pillars Jugo, so maybe you could argue like if Daori intercepts him or whatnot. So C could be interesting. Flash pillars, the aids are susceptible. There is something to that. But again, like they should be able to Kai release each other. And obviously Daori's not going to have the support of the Raikage. So C also is pretty decent in this situation with his sensory capabilities. But again, like he's not that much, like he doesn't really show that great of combat feats. It's more so like Genjutsu. And even then, like maybe you could say like Sasuke does glance over at his direction and just Genjutsus him in a similar capacity. So I can't necessarily like see C bringing up a difference. Do you want to add anything on like maybe the side of the aids?
On the side of the aids, I don't hide from C, because like C has that potential, but everybody else just sort of, no matter who comes out on top, the Kage are still above them. So I would say the aids are kind of impactful. Like if some of the aids win and like can go help their Kage face off against like some of the other Kage, you know, maybe then they could pull something off. But overall, I don't think they're that consequential here.
Yeah, they're kind of like the samurai in this situation. Like you can only, like I know we included them, like, and, you know, you obviously have like Mifune, like the higher up samurai, but like the samurai, what do you do? Like they got claimed by Sasuke. Like you can't run as the shinobi, obviously. So that is a big problem. And then you obviously like have like Onoki and Mei, because these two are a little weird to talk about. We kind of mentioned them. There's also the possibility that they fight each other, which is kind of an interesting matchup. Mei's weird because I want to say she uses Vapor style, but it's kind of hard Vapor to encompass the room. It's still possible, but if there's like multi, see it being likely. On top of that, if her aids are present, I also wouldn't see her like using it in enclosed space. So we have like Kurotsuchi and Akatsuchi who are like, it's weird because like they also don't have the craziest showings. Kitsuchi like is able to pin down Kabuto when she's fighting, but she's obviously definitively below like Sasuke and all these people. You know what I mean? Like, well, yeah. Go ahead. I can tell you got a stance already.
Kurotsuchi, not Kitsuchi.
Kurotsuchi. Yo, this is going in blooper reel. This is going in blooper reel. So by the end of the video, so Kurotsuchi is able to like pin down Kabuto. You could actually imply that he might have let her hit him, just due to the fact that he wanted to capture Yamato. That was his primary mission. But, you know, she does have like that like cement type jutsu, which might be useful against like the other aids or random samurai. But, you know, it's kind of like, okay, who like are these A thing for particle style? Like, what Onoki versus A? Talk to the people, bruh.
So in this specific matchup, I think Mei kind of gets taken out. I want to talk about Mei in counters for particle style. We don't know if she could just like dodge it, because I just got confidence. He did kind of blitz KCM Naruto Zetsu at one point.
He notes it too. He's like, this guy's
but
fast. It's like impressive. It's like an impressive feat. Yeah.
Yeah, so like Chojuro also just sort of slaps Sasuke Susanoo and like busts him through a wall and stuff. So, you know, like Chojiro's pretty impressive. I think he's the strongest one of the aids here. But Anoki is just, again, like Anoki is Anoki. Like what do you want me to say about the guy who can like fight Madara with a
one's getting up after that? You know, they're just gonna stick to the ground.
Yeah. But for Mei, long enough for her to be like the last one standing against Danzo, I actually think she might have a winning matchup against Danzo, just like the Raikage. And that's mainly because if she does resolve herself to fill the room with acid fully, like let's say like Chojuro and Ao are dead somehow, you know, like they died. What if she just fills the room with acid and then Danzo just respawns and dies immediately afterwards? Like, it's just a death loop for him at that point. So if she's able to pull that off,
Yeah, it's interesting.
and if she like watches her back, like if she saw Danzo like kill Sasuke with Izanagi one time or something, she's just gonna be watching her back surprisingly. Like if she's able to pull this off. There are conditions that need to be met for this to be a thing, but
Yeah.
if it is a thing, I think she might actually win the whole thing if Danzo kills everyone and then
Yeah,
she kills Danzo.
it really is impressive because she's like melting Sasuke's rib cage, and she's obviously like like corrosive. Like it could get to the point where even if Danzo respawns and attacks her, like for example, even if he does like slit her throat, like it does well, that's kind of the end of the fight. Never mind. It wouldn't necessarily take to like take him down fully in the vapor, but I will say from this, like everybody's gonna be having an issue with that. It is gonna be a big issue. Now, I will say I think.
But the thing is, these conditions are pretty unlikely, because for her to make it to the end, I'm not really sure how likely that is. Although if she just stays back, like Inoki, like if Inoki and Mei just sort of stay back, don't get into any fights, in the end it might just be Mei versus Inoki versus Danzo. Danzo and Inoki probably view each other as the biggest threat, and they're going to be facing each other. So maybe that could give her time to like fill the room up and kill them. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I will say too, speaking on Inoki, he's also kind of have a similar win con. If you argue that he's capable of doing the large scale particle style they did against Madara, and the aids aren't in the way, or maybe they stay. I listen. I think it's kind of weird because he's out of chakra and Tsunade's giving him like some of hers when she's almost out. So I don't think it's that outlandish to say Inoki at full.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah, that's also a possibility. So maybe I won't, you can write that off. But if you do go down that line of reasoning, just no one in this room is immune to him. I would argue if you did go down that line, though, at time, it also wouldn't have made a difference. And Inoki just blatantly did him a favor in that point. So that's also a possibility. So, something interesting to note, too, is that if you kind of argue that Zetsu also pops up, because basically, like, I actually was rereading this arc and I didn't catch this, but Obito is actually the one that orders Zetsu to like out Sasuke's location. It's obviously revealed later on that, Obito wanted Sasuke to get stronger and even potentially take some of the Kage captive. But it is interesting because when Zetsu pops up, he actually places spores on all of the Kage, like all of them. Even with the Raikage in them, we actually see that they had to take down the Zetsu and like throw him in the hallway and stuff like that. So if that kind of appears and Sasuke is getting pressured, we could see a situation to where like, okay, all of these Kage are losing some of their chakra and Sasuke's able to regain his. But again, right, I don't think this makes that much of a difference to where Sasuke is just gonna blatantly like overcome Danzo, especially if Danzo is Izanagi active. Because again, it's not like it's fully rejuvenated Sasuke. Like he got rejuvenated, but he still was like fatigued, you know what I mean? It wasn't because he had still taken like a bunch of damage. It wasn't still like his, his chakra was regenerating, but he still did have physical damage that was ailmenting him. So there is that aspect of it, and I don't think it makes a difference since Danzo also was fighting a more developed version of that Sasuke. So that is something. It could also turn the tide for a bunch of the AIDS fights, maybe some of the Kage, because for example, like Chojiro's not able to get Chojiro's not able to get the Zetsu off of Kage at present. So I can't really. Do you want to add to that? Or?
Yeah, I would say like every Kage with the stone golem and stuff, or just waiting the Dragon Ball Z style.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say like the Zetsu
really has. There's a lot of factors with his side. The fact that he also can bring Mifune over and add the samurai, he leaves him for cover. And the problem with the aids is that none of the aids necessarily make that much of a difference against Danzo himself. Even if you argue there was like 3 minutes left, all that would require a backing up and taking a backseat role. He's going to kind of let Mifune do his thing. He's going to sit in the back, maybe pick some people off with the Izanagi surprise attacks and make it so nobody can really sense him or see what's happening. Fu can obviously mind transfer. So we see the Danzo group kind of being the likely winner in this kind of free-for-all. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say so, because it's just because of his fighting style. He's just going to be laying low, laying back. He's just going to be observing the battle and then picking off whoever's left afterwards.
Yeah.
And like I said, like debatably Mei, who knows? Like Inoki and Gaara are just dead if they end up being the ones to go up against Danzo.
Yeah.
Mifune is already under Danzo's influence, so he's not going to like be doing anything. Mei probably loses. the Raikage is kind of suicidal, so I don't think he's gonna be the one to make it out of this.
Yeah.
So I do think that just in terms of like percentages or like likelihood, if he slacks off on his job a little bit and like sleeps, like takes a nap, and in that time Sasuke dies, like Obito doesn't come to save him, then Karin is gonna come out with a rage boost and the chains, the Uzumaki clan chains that can dismantle Guru Zetsu and of death. And Kushina is stated to like, or sorry, Karin is stated to have like a glimpse of Kushina's power. So I don't know, like if Sasuke dies at any point, Karin might unironically solo? Question mark?
No, Karin's quite crazy. And, you know, it sucks that, like, we can't talk about her, like, without, you know, I'm playing, that's crazy. Get that out in the fucking video. But, basically, like, you know, she doesn't really most useful in this situation, which, you know, isn't her point on the squadron. So, obviously, that's not the best. But more often than not, we see Danzo basically just has a Kage level fighter in his forces on top of his aides who also can make plays. The Raikage, you know, maybe if he gets out, he could take Danzo due to the superior speed advantage. Maybe you think Danzo could still pull it out. He'll be able to kind of, with the Izanagi plus wind style over the lightning armor, be able to do something. Or maybe you think, you know, Gaara pulls out and, you know, but I will say, like, individually, like, if any of these fighters are fatigued and they're, like, coming away from the Sasuke fight, like, you know, Raikage or Gaara, it's just going to be tough for them against, like, the Izanagi surprise attacks, Danzo. He could also summon the Baku in that small room and just have everybody getting sucked in. He just starts spamming wind style like he did against Sasuke, the same one that shred through the back of the Susanoo.
Yeah, I could definitely see the Raikage just seeing the Baku sucking everybody in, and he would be like, he would wind up a fist and like jump at the Baku like Dragon Fist or something, you know, from Dragon Ball, like Super Saiyan 3 Goku just charging past the Baku, like putting a hole in him or something.
Jumping
in
its stomach, bro. Like that's the
like
type
jumping
of
in its stomach, and like I'm just imagining like a scene from like Mortal Kombat or something where he just like jumps in the Baku's mouth and like comes out through the back of his head.
Yeah,
or
literally,
something, like,
literally. So, you know, it
shoots past him.
It's pretty, you know, we lean towards Danzo in this situation. We think he has the highest likelihood. I think there are ways the other Kage and groups can win, depending on how you argue them and their aides. I just think Danzo has kind of a stacked advantage here. And the fact that, like, he's already kind of coming out strong without even having to fight, and then you add him in is just kind of ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of tough. And this is also based off the character motivations. Like, if you said, like, oh, Raikage starts with Danzo, maybe this is a different fight. But, like, we're not. We're starting the Raikage versus opponent of, like, comparable strength. Like, obviously, Sasuke's not able to perceive him, but, you know, he is doing well against the Raikage, even though the Raikage is massively faster. And you throw in Gaara, it's all this stuff. So, you know, we kind of look at it like that.
Yeah.
Danzo seems really solid. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, so I would say, like, in terms of the other Kage, I see probably Inoki has like the highest chance to win aside from Danzo.
I agree.
Or maybe the Raikage, because like Inoki has a terrible matchup against Danzo specifically. So like I could see either Gaara or the Raikage, or maybe even Mei pulling it out, because like Gaara, even when he's fatigued, you know, maybe he could just shield himself with sand and then keep sniping Danzo or something like that. So, you know, I could see these people coming out on top. It's just that the Sasuke battle is going to take them out of the equation more likely than not.
Yeah.
And then it's just going to be like, I want to say Mei, because like, who expects Mei to win this fight, you know? But I just can't say like, yeah, she's definitely like likely winning this or anything. So I would say Danzo wins. The others have a shot, like you said. In terms of percentages, I think the Raikage kind of dies first. Probably, in my opinion, because he's just gonna be like suicidally charging in against Sasuke.
He's getting hit by a Amaterasu. Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Or I will say, like, Sasuke's Amaterasu could also just hit one of the other Kage by accident if he's like dragging it around. Like, that's also something, like, it's so funny because the Sasuke fight, you know, as interesting as it is, also could have like ramifications for like the other parts of the arena and stuff like that. Yeah. So he could actually just take out like Mei accidentally with Amaterasu. Like
Inoki's just sitting in like a corner somewhere, just complaining about his back, not looking at the battle, and he lights on fire.
It's just like, bro, but you know, it's just he's obviously not. It's not going to be the main focus. Like, he's gonna be preoccupied with the Raikage. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say like, yeah, Fu also being a wild card for Danzo, being able to get a free kill off of Gaara or Inoki. So yeah, I would say like, yeah, like you said, Danzo just sort of comes out on top here more likely than not.
That's another thing too I want to mention. If Danzo does lose, that ceiling jutsu might actually wipe a couple people out as well. That's something I didn't even consider.
My God.
It's actually that crazy.
Yeah.
Like, if he gets pressed to that point, to the, like where he starts losing control over Hashirama Cell and stuff like that, he could actually take down a couple of fighters with that ceiling jutsu because they might not have the area to escape it. Now, if it hits, debatable because like even Sasuke was kind of able to jump away from it. But if if they're not ready for it, because Obito did kind of warn Sasuke, if they don't know what that is, that actually might be a wipe for a lot of people, which is hilarious.
Yeah. I would imagine like Inoki or somebody just after a long battle, he's like, ah, yes, I finally beat him. And then the seal just comes out, like swallows him and just kills him.
Yeah, it's crazy. It'd be absurd. So Danzo's weird because like if Danzo actually does lose, whoever he's fighting is more than likely going to get sealed into his body with him as well.
I'd say the Raikage is like the only one that's immune because he's like definitely fast enough to
Yeah,
get out. Like,
yeah, I
even
would
if he
agree with
doesn't
that.
realize what's going on right off the bat, he's still fast enough to like dodge
Yeah,
it.
yeah. The Jugo like blast point is like a perfect like example of like these large scale attacks just not really going to be working on the Raikage if they're not at a certain speed.
Yeah.
So I would agree with that. But that's the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I sure did. Go subscribe to Say3. Obviously, you know, he makes that good stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know. If you want another free-for-all, I can't think of any more, but if you guys think of
Otsutsuki free for all, guys.
No, I'm not doing that. Don't like
Boruto Android free for all.
I can't. I'm not doing none of that, but maybe we'll see if people like that. But anyway, catch you next time. Bye-bye.